Hi, I'm Niederprüm. I'm the director of A Song of Starless Guys, and this is Lisa Krosse, my assistant director, and this is Lukas König, my director of photography. And we are really pleased to do this interview with the Tokyo Short Film Festival, and we really hope that you have fun watching it. So enjoy. I think there were several things in my life. I initially wanted to be a journalist, but I didn't like the workflow of a journalist. So then I wanted to do something with video games, but this didn't work for me either. And I realized within this process that film was something that really always inspired me. I really watched a lot of films growing up, and I think I have a really visual way of thinking. So, and this is a important part of it. I think this visual way of thinking really inspired me to do a film, and I think I was scared a long time to do so because I didn't was sure it would work, but now we are here, and I think it kind of worked.
I love movies, I love watching TV shows, I love everything about it and always have. So when I try to figure out what to do with my life after school, I thought maybe a movie critic or something. So I studied German language and literature. But in the end, I figured out that it it would be much more fun to work with what you love and not just write about it. So that was kind of the thing that pushed me towards wanting to make movies.
I never asked this question myself. I get my first camera when I was 5, and I take photos. After that, I take some videos. Then the parts are switching. I take more videos than photos, and it become a normal part of my life. So I never thought about it, but in the end, we are all filmmakers.
I think one of the greatest challenges we had with the Song of Starless Skies was the fact that we didn't have any budget for it. While we all already worked in some field of media, our master's degree we did was more or less focused upon documentary filmmaking and journalistic filmmaking, and we all wanted to do a short film. So it's more or less started out as a non unofficial film club at as university that chose an H.P. Lovecraft story, the music of Eric Zahn, to adapt as a short film. And then I wrote a script, and then I changed the script, and then I changed the script again. And so we started doing a short film through this whole film club, and we never had the idea to ask for any money by a sponsor or a founding through the state. So we more or less paid for this by ourselves. But it also helped us to realize the movie the way we did, because we never had the money to do some fancy VFX effects. And I think the whole the whole process to do this was really enhanced by this disadvantage. We really had to get creative to do some things, and I think it worked out great. So yeah, I think our biggest disadvantage was actually our biggest advantage.
Other difficulties we had is some of the people were at the university, the others are working, and to find a shooting day was terrible. We spent a lot of effort and time to find a day, but we did.
I personally want to tell stories because I think stories are really integral to being human in a sense. I think telling stories is a really human endeavor, and we are watching ourselves as part of a story, and our lives are stories. And I think telling stories gives us really the power to do something, to give something to people, to reach people, and to change their lives, and to create the endings and the beginnings we don't find in life sometimes, because life goes on until it doesn't. And I think a story has a beginning and an ending, and it has the bad guy, and it has the hero, and it has the cast of figures that are moving the story along. And I think there's a sense of order in that maybe life doesn't always give you. And I think because of that, it's really precious to tell stories, because it helps people to view their lives as a story, and it helps them to endure through difficult situations. It helps them to have fun, to cherish life more. So I think this is one of the reasons I wanted to tell stories. And I think the issues and themes are really multilateral and difficult. I think A Song of Starless Skies is mostly a movie about fascism or techno-fascism, and the language of fascism, or the idea. I mean, A Song of Starless Skies is a movie there isn't much dialogue. I mean, there's basically only monologue, more or less. It's an idea of the power of language and the power of speech, and how controlling speech and how controlling language really controls reality. And I think this is one issue I wanted to address with the movie. How powerful the fact is that we live in a world where everybody can talk to everybody else, no matter how far they are away from each other, but they still can. And yet they often don't. So I think this is an interesting part, that I think the isolation of our age, or the isolation of our generation, is more or less created by the tool that should destroy this isolation. And I think the protectorate, for instance, they are a symbol for such groups. They are a symbol for the far right. They are a symbol for conspiracy theorists. They are a symbol for QAnon followers. They are a symbol for an anonymous internet movement that creates followers that never meet their heroes, because they are on the other end of the globe, never really talking to them, just talking to their avatars or their post or their text. So yeah, these are the issues I think this movie wanted to address, or at least these are the issues I wanted to address. I don't know if the others have some issues.
No, but I'd like to add, I think that every story has kind of already been told, and I think most themes and issues reoccur in movies and TV shows and stuff. But I think it's the perspective on it and the way you tell it that makes it unique and that makes it relevant. And I think that's kind of the point of telling stories.
As a teenager, I was fascinated by the fact that only one picture can tell a whole story. And you see, when you look at something, you see a picture, and you can tell a story. Everybody can tell a story because everyone can see or have an imagination of something. And this is the important way. Everyone can tell a story, but as Lisa said, the perspective makes the opportunities and makes it more interesting. And this is the point. Everyone can tell a story because you can tell a story in one picture.
And I personally think this philosophy of perspective was also really crucial to A Song of Starless Skies, because A Song of Starless Skies in many ways is a classical dystopian post-apocalyptic movie, but we made the conscious choice to tell the story from the perspective of a citizen of such a state, with the implication that there is no autocratic storyteller that gives the viewer information our protagonist hadn't, or hero as hadn't, because I think what's really crucial to such systems and fascist regimes in general is that they don't tell you a thing about what is forbidden or what is allowed, because they give you a grand view of some things, but they never tell you the details. And I think this feeling of deep puzzlement, of deep estrangement was really important to A Song of Starless Skies. The movie is so cryptical because it really wanted to tell the story from that perspective, and this perspective alone. It's really not made to be understand as a whole. It shouldn't be understandable as other movies are. So yeah, I think this was also really important for A Song of Starless Skies. So approaching a new project, I don't believe in the formalistic way. I don't really believe in explanations or introductions into script writing. I think doing something like a movie really must come from within yourself. I think the ideas and the moving points of a movie can only work if they are things that move yourself, in a sense. I really are sure that to do a great film, to do a great movie, you need to rip a part of yourself out and put it in front of the whole world to view. So yeah, I think it's a really unconscious process, and I also think it's a process of team elimination and peer review. I think it's important to show people what you do and to let them read it and let them review it, and if they think it's a good idea, then do it, and if they think it's shit, then don't do it. I don't think there's a filmmaker I can name as the influence. I think there are tons and tons and tons of filmmakers that influenced me, and I think I love watching movies. I really believe in the death of the author, in a sense. I love watching movies that have great ideas and great pace and great style, and I really can't name like one person that established my whole style, in a sense. I think, for instance, this movie, A Song of Stars Guys, was heavily inspired by Stalker, by Tarkovsky, and I think this is a movie I always loved, and in a sense it was also really important for A Song of Starless Skies because it's also a low budget movie with a very tragic story. Unfortunately, all of the crew died after filming Stalker because they filmed it at a Soviet chemical plant that was polluted by hazardous chemicals that more or less gave them all cancer. So it's a really tragic story, but it's still a really, really great movie. And I think the idea of doing a sci-fi movie that more or less plays in a natural environment, in an environment of our present day, that concerns futurist ideas more than futurist aesthetics, in a sense, is really important. And I would name Stalker as an influence, for instance. I personally think the industry is changing through the pandemic or through COVID, if it's changing more to people watching movies at home than in the cinema. But I think the death of the cinema was really on the horizon for the last 10 years. I mean, this is a thing that wasn't exclusive to COVID or the pandemic in general, it was a thing that started a long time ago. I think it's a sad thing. I love the cinema, but I think you have to go with the flow of the present, and I think you have to accept that cinemas won't be around much more probably. And yeah, I think for independent filmmakers, in a sense, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we all want to watch our movies in the cinema, and I really can understand this notion. I really want to, but there's a lot less gatekeeping now than there were like 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago you had like 3 chances to place your movie, and if those don't work out, you had a real big problem. Nowadays you can send your movie around the world, so it's a really globalized multinational industry that really helps you to get your foot in the door, if you would like to say so. And I think this is a positive that resulted through the pandemic. So this is not all negatives. And yeah, I think the important part is the movie, not so much the place you watch it in, even if the cinema is indeed a really mystical place in some sense. I mean, there are cultural theorists that address the cinema with a religious notion, and I really can understand this notion, but I think in the end the movie is the important part, not the cinema. I personally think one advice I would give aspiring artists is, don't believe in this whole lone wolf stick. This isn't true, and it never was true, and it never will be true. I mean, I think art and movies and creativity is always like, always has this sense of people being right while everybody else is wrong, and you are the misunderstood genius, and it doesn't matter that you live in a, I don't know, in a trailer somewhere on the outskirts of town. You are a genius artist. Don't do that. Stick with people and work with people and be kind to people you work with. It's those people that will make your success, and it's not you, and it's not your genius that does anything of that kind to you. I mean, I think this is always there's this Tarantino idea that somebody like Tarantino just got famous overnight, but this isn't true. Tarantino worked in the movies and in the American TV business mostly as an extra, not like a executive producer or anything, but he worked in those departments or areas, and I think he got his connection to the Reservoir Dogs through this work. Don't do this whole shtick, I'm the lone genius, I will be famous, nobody else gets me. Because when nobody else gets you, you also never have somebody to tell you if that what you are planning is great or not so great. Believe me, this is the hardest part of doing something creative. People will come up to you and tell you that what you are doing is shit, and learning to know which people you have to take serious and which people you shouldn't take serious when they say things like that is more or less the whole gambit, I would say, because finding those people is the most important part. And when you found them, be kind and help them with their projects and work together. Work as a group, work as a collective, give yourself some fancy name, I don't know, create an art collective, feel great about it. But don't do that thing where you sit alone in your flat or your room or whatever and think, someday I will be famous. It won't happen. You will wait your whole life on that. There will be nothing that will come out of that. Go out there, meet people that do the things you want to do, work with them. When they are great people and they are good people, they will work on your projects too. So only through this you will learn anything about doing movies and doing art in general. I know it's a great dream to hope that you are we will successful from within yourself, but you won't. It's a really slim chance to be successful in general with movies, and it's a far slimmer chance to be successful when you are all on your when you're all alone. Don't be all alone. Search for people that do that and work with them.
I also think you shouldn't be afraid to create something just because you think, oh, I didn't went to this great film school, or I didn't, I have no experience or something. If you want to do a movie, if you want to do filmmaking and stuff, do it. Just write a script, think about how you could manage it. When you have a group of people, you can manage it, and don't be afraid that you're not good enough or something, because everyone has ideas, and many ideas are great, but not many people have the courage to do it. So just do it.
This is absolutely true. I think you never forget that everybody is trying, no matter how much they did, no matter if they won an Oscar or something. Every new project they are trying again, and there are a lot of people who did great movies or TV series or something like that, and then never did anything great again. So never give up upon this idea. We are all trying every time. So don't be scared about doing something like that. And even if your first films aren't that good or are bad, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because in the end, doing film is a test of endurance more than anything else. It's not. It's surely it's a test of skill and creativity, but it's a test of endurance. Whoever endures the longest will do film or movies. I mean, there are people that did only trash movies or trash films in their life, but they still did it their whole life and they got happy with it. Be happy with what you do, because only when you are happy with what you are doing, you will do great movies. Don't do it for the money or the success. This doesn't work. Do it because you love it, because you love all the stress and the anxiety and the anger that maybe will arise during the process, because I think doing something creative is always ripping out a part of yourself and putting it out for the whole world to see it. So this is, I think, what I would advise, or we would advise.
Yeah, I never visit the university or so, and my advice is have your ears open wide. Never underestimate someone, because people can create something with an iPhone or whatever, and you don't have to be the biggest or best equipment. You can do whatever you love with things fest.
Way
Mit so,
simple.
yeah, in a ways they are so much simpler than the big productions or something.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Lisa and Lucas said, and I think this is really the whole thing. And don't be scared. Never be scared, but don't do it. There is nobody. All the people that will be laughing about you doing a movie never did a movie themselves. They judge you not because they're cruel, but because they're inexperienced. They don't know how much pain and trouble it is to do such things. So don't take them too serious, and don't take the judgment of, I don't know, a film school or something else too serious. This is not the reality how this industry works. So keep on trying, and yeah, I think there will be something great coming out in the end. Even if it's the third movie you do, or the fourth, or the sixth, or the seventh, or the eighth. Just keep on trying and try to have fun while you're doing it, because this is really important. I absolutely think that films or stories can change the world. They changed my world. I think they changed Lisa's world and they changed Luca's world and they keep on changing our worlds. And I think they are not only mass phenomena, but they are really in, intimate look into the minds of people. And in a sense, the world is a story. All we do is telling stories to each other. So yeah, I think they can change the world, and I think they are really, really important. They are one of the most important things we have because stories tell us who we are and who we don't want to be. And I think this is a thing of utmost importance. So yeah, they can change the world, and they are doing it all the time.
And I think they can do so much to you. They can be a cathartic experience. Like when you watch a brutal horror movie or something, they can be a relief. When you watch a hilarious movie, they can give you insight in topics and in people that you normally would never have. And they do it in a different way than books do it, and other kind of media. And I believe they can educate you as well. And I think there are so many aspects to it.
I don't know what people like to watch these days. I think through the internet, the viewing habits of people really got multilateral. They watch a lot of different stuff, and I don't think that those cliche views on this are really helping the industry. I mean, I heard that like I mean, there are a lot of old school, very established Hollywood filmmakers that are completely shitting on Marvel movies, for instance. And I'm not the biggest fan of Marvel myself either, but I don't think this is necessarily good because there are great movies from Marvel or great TV series. I loved Legion, for instance. I think it was one of the most experimental TV shows of the last decade, and I loved it. I loved it a lot. So and it's, for instance, inspired me also to do a song of Starless Skies. It was in fact a huge inspiration. So I don't know what the taste of people is, but I think it's not that important because people watch more than one thing, and somebody that watches a Marvel movie, for instance, still likes to watch the new Martin Scorsese movie. Not everybody that watches Marvel movies singularly watches Marvel movies, or I don't know. Not everybody that I love Martin Scorsese movies, but I liked also a lot of Marvel movies I watched. So I don't think this is I think there is like a notion of taste in that sense because people are really multilateral things, and I don't think that this has to do anything with the pandemic. To be honest, I think especially during the pandemic, the film classics won a greater importance again because many people during lockdowns watched film classics. They watched the classic movies of the 80s or 70s or 60s because they had nothing else to do. And for instance, in our hometown Essen, there was a great there was an outdoor cinema where you can watch movies during the pandemic, and they only showed the classics. They showed Indiana Jones, they showed Star Wars, they showed Blade Runner, they showed Jurassic Park. So I don't know, and they also showed like I don't know Fellini and other really classic films, or they showed really obscure art house movies. So if ever the pandemic inspired people to watch more movies, I think, not less, and I don't know. So I think this is the only thing I can say about how it changed the taste of people, to be honest. So we are currently working on a project that is based in the present day. It's a a movie about a convenience store and a gathering of people that are more or less outcasts to society, and it's a evening before the end of the world, and they don't know it. They don't know that the world will end, and it's a story about being stuck in a situation and staying too long in that situation and being okay with that, or being ignorant to that, and how people that maybe never got chance in life to go to university or do something else, learn a trade or something like that, spend their days living in front of that corner store. And it's a lot different from A Song of Starless Skies, but I think we all had the wish to do something more based in reality, more grounded than A Song of Starless Skies, because we all worked on different film projects, both commercial and non-commercial, in the time we cut and post-produced A Song of Starless Skies, and we all realized that this is maybe something we would like to try, something more realistic. It's still somewhat surreal and there are like fantastic elements in it, but it's the great scheme of it is more based in reality. So I think this is our next project, and we really hope that we can film it this year and that it will be sponsored through a state funding. Yeah, that is what we are gonna do.